Hey guys, this is Comic Uno, and today I'm doing a review for The Walking Dead Season 4, Episode 4, called Indifference. So let's talk about this episode. There's not a lot of zombie action, but there's a lot of character progression in this episode, especially for Carol. We do have the group of Daryl, Michonne, Bob, and Tyrese. We'll talk about the secondary crew for this episode. We learn a little bit about Bob. He's an alcoholic, and I think that's what's gonna bring the team a little bit back, and Daryl's got pissed off in this episode because of it, which I totally understand. I think Daryl's definitely right, and I think Bob is bringing back the crew because of it, and for me, I didn't think it was really a story that got me interested with Bob. I think it was, a story that was supposed to make us interested in him, but I felt like more of a sob story than it was interesting, at least the way they presented it in this episode. So I didn't so much like that story. I like the action portion for that. And of course, it's always cool to see Daryl, Michonne, and even Tyrese. Tyrese is getting back to it a little bit. We saw him be a little somber in this episode after his all rage in the last two episodes. I think he's starting to learn, alright, I don't want to die, because he keeps questioning himself, should I die after all these things happen? I think he kind of realizes, I guess, alright, let me see what happens, let me at least see if my sister survives this. So he's trying towards the end of this episode, so that's what happens with Daryl and his crew. And then we get to see Carol and Rick, which is, I would say, the center of this episode. We learn a little bit more about Carol and her past, which we already knew about the abusive husband. And if you don't watch the show as much, if you don't pay attention to detail as much, this might be a fact that you learn this episode, because I feel like it was more hidden towards the first season, and if you watched the first season, when the first season was on, you might have forgotten that detail, so I'm glad that they brought it up in a way that it was more remembering, and more for the audience to remember exactly what happened with Carol, because Carol's gone through a lot of shit, so you kind of understand why she does the things she does in this season. She has changed as a person, and I have to say one of my favorite parts of this episode was probably the beginning. There's two favorite parts of mine. The beginning, when she's talking to Lizzie, saying, I'm gonna try to protect you, because she did tell the father that she would protect Lizzie and her sister. So I like that portion. Lizzie's like, oh, thanks, Mom, and he's like, no, don't call me that. So we get to see that hurt from Sophia and how she lost Sophia, and she takes care of these people, but she's not a mother. She's not a mother anymore, but she wants to kind of take that role, and she hasn't talked about Sophia since her death. I don't think when she died she even really talked about it, so now it's kind of coming out in these episodes. I really loved, again, that first portion of that, and then reminding us, she lost Sophia, and I think a lot of us forget about that. So I like that part. And one thing I loved in this episode, at least one scene, was the Rick and Carol scene when they're at the garden. And Rick talks about his past life and Carol talks about her past life. And you kind of realize, this is the zombie apocalypse now, but they had lives before this. And I think this season is bringing that up a little bit more. Like when, I think it was the first or second episode of the season, when the first episode actually, when Zach Darren was like, oh, what did you do before this? So I like that they're bringing up that story too, because The Walking Dead is usually not known for that. You never really get flashbacks. It's not gonna do it. I don't think they do in the comic books. So it's kind of nice to have those little tidbits of who were they in the past. Even though we know who Carol and Rick are, we kind of just see them express their feelings a little bit more. And then we get the end of this episode where Rick is like, Carol, I don't like what you did. Bye. So Carol leaves. This is the first time we see an exit of a character without them actually dying. I guess, Angia, she kind of counts, but people thought she was dead, so Rick actually, kicks her out of the group. I would say this is the first time that ever happened in this show. And why Carol? After the end of the episode, and I think they actually did this, on purpose. We get to see the long drive of Bob and all of them, and then we see Rick. And we see him look into the mirror. I think he finally looks at the man in the mirror. That moment. Because you gotta think, Rick's done some pretty bad shit in the past in this show. He's actually done a lot of shit in this show. Carol does one mistake, which is kind of understandable. She's a little going a little psycho also. So you kind of understand where she's coming from. But Rick, like, literally no warning, just says, all right, you're out of the group, go by yourself. And then she's like, okay, at least bring Lizzie. No, you can't bring anybody, like, bye. I thought that was kind of harsh. Again, especially since it's Rick. I mean, he hasn't done everything that's so perfect. He's killed people, too, that shouldn't be killed in the past. So I thought that was really weird for Rick to do that. And I think towards the end he's like, oh, maybe I didn't do the right thing, but I gotta keep doing it anyways. So I really liked the Rick and Carol dynamic in this episode. I think it made it really interesting. And will we see Carol again? I don't know, honestly. I mean, I think once Daryl comes back, he might be upset. Because they had a romance going on. I mean, they haven't really talked about it since season 3, but I think he would be upset. But how fused is their romance? Will he be like, oh, I'm gonna go get Carol? It's like, oh well, type thing, or just yell at Rick? I think that's something interesting. I'm excited for the next episode to see what Daryl does, because they did have a connection. Yeah, but I think that was kind of uncalled for what Rick did. I don't think it was the right thing to do. Especially, I mean, like, after I heard what Carol did, like, I kind of understood what she did. Like, it was obviously wrong what she did, but you kind of understood it at the same time. I don't think it deserved her to get exiled out of the group and go by yourself, and all you have is a car and some food. And then, like, after the whole sob speech of, like, how much she's gone through in her life and how she's like, oh, yeah, the one thing I was afraid of being alone, and now you're going to make me be alone? Like, the one thing I fear in life? Or is that really showing how much she's changed as a character, that she doesn't care about being alone anymore? Yeah, so I thought that was a really interesting story for that. Good episode overall, I guess. I think it was a little bit on the slow side, of course. I mean, we got the ending where Carol left. I mean, that's pretty big. But I think it was a little bit more of a slow episode. I hope we get to see the show pick up a little bit, because I think Walking Dead does falter when there are really slow parts. Because for me, I like character development, which I'm a big character development fan, but I also like the plot to be progressed a little also. I think once Walking Dead does its character development, for some reason they don't know how to extend their plot also. I think you should do both at the same time to make it a good season. But so far season 4 has been really good. So I like this episode. You know, wasn't the best episode, but at least there's stuff to talk about. And hopefully it doesn't go in this direction where it is going slow, because a lot of that in season 3 and season 2 we got. I'm hoping it kind of goes in a faster pace, which I think it will after this whole entire sickness. I think next episode should go in a faster pace, because they did get the medicine. I'm sure some people will die. But yeah, it was an interesting enough episode to talk about. So what do you think about Carol leaving the show or coming? I don't know what's going on with Carol. Do you think it was the right thing what Rick did? Do you think Carol will come back? How do you think Daryl will interact with that? And were you interested in the Bob story at all? Because I kind of wasn't. Felt like it was kind of a forced story for people that care about Bob. So that's just my opinion. Hope you guys enjoyed. This is Comic Uno. Of course, I'll have another review for Walking Dead next week, and I'll see you guys later. Guys, don't forget to follow me on Twitter for Comic Uno and the Rant Situations, and don't forget to like my Facebook page, and I'll see you guys later.